up front.
That's okay. Half the time when I'm in my house, I have some sirens that come visit.
There you go. Perfect. Wait, you don't live in the hood?
No. I was using it in the mythology way. You know, women.
Right. Oh yeah.
Those sirens, where the word came from.
That does not look like the hood behind him.
Yes.
No, it does not look like the hood behind him.
I'm sorry. I am a nerd, so I will throw out nerd terminology every now and again. Just so you have to excuse me for this.
We will figure that out, and we're all nerds at heart. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we are live, and I want to say good evening, good afternoon, or wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another one-on-one session right now. And usually the one-on-ones are me and one person. Sometimes it's two. Well, this time it's three. So I got lucky and have a foursome right now. I'm having me a foursome right now. Pause. Now, I want to say, I want to introduce the audience right now. And if you guys get a chance, make sure you go ahead and click the like button as you enter. Click the like, share it with your friends. I want to introduce the three people who've joined me on the panel right now. And you guys know I typically will have it to where there's video, but you know what? The social justice warriors will probably try to find out who these young men are and ruin their lives, which is actually what these women like to do whenever you're spitting the truth. And the truth is right now is there's this thing called Mgtow, Mgtow. And what it stands for is men going their own way. And a lot of people have talked to me and said, Tommy, you're like kind of unofficially a part of this group because of the way I speak about women and the things that women do to men. Now, these young men, TFL, DDJ, and Feeding the Cat are joining us to not only tell us about what Mgtow is, how they ended up getting in this movement, and I'll ask more questions, even some that you guys put in the chat room. So let's get ready. Let's prepare ourselves for these young men, and you guys can go in order to introduce yourselves and where they may be able to find more about you.
All right, my name is Turd Flinging Monkey, or you can call me TFM. I get called TFL a lot. It doesn't offend me. But I have a YouTube channel, which is Turd Flinging Monkey. I'm actually the top ranking turd. So I even beat Turd Ferguson. I'm also on Twitch. I do 2 podcasts a week, one on Wednesday morning and one on Saturday evening. And I had a Minds account, but they don't let me upload longer videos, so I just stopped using it.
What is Minds? People keep telling me to use that, and I'm like, I don't know exactly what it is. And
Minds, it's a social media platform. It's similar to YouTube, where you can upload videos and share them and so forth. What I liked about Minds is they're very committed to free speech, which is a huge problem right now. The problem with Minds is it's just missing a lot of features. And if you try to upload a video longer than 20 minutes, it just doesn't work. So I was originally going to use my Minds account as like a backup in case my YouTube channel was shut down. But then I couldn't upload my longer videos. Yeah. So I was like, what's the point? So, oh, well, I tried.
I tried it for a little while, too, and I was like, yeah, I don't get this. But then I don't get Snapchat either. Why? Because I'm old. So you can get a lot past me on social media. The next young man on the list, we will go with DDJ. Introduce yourself.
My online name is DDJ, and I respect and appreciate the fact that you called me a young man. I'm actually a grandfather. I was a family law paralegal for 10 years. I've been married and divorced twice. I won my children in each divorce, both times.
Good man.
And like I said, I was on the front lines as a family law paralegal for a long time. I'm a former MRA, and I do follow Mgtow philosophies. And I recently wrote a best-selling book, The Feminist Lie, available on Amazon in both PDF and paperback format. And I'm in the process of having an audiobook done for it right now. I'm also in the process of writing a second book about divorce rape culture.
Nice.
And so I told my story on the TFM show. TFM and his producer, Feeding the Cat, we all talked. And now I co-host the TFM's live show on Twitch every Saturday. And I have an open seat available on TFM's 420 show every Wednesday morning where we talk about the news. I also have a Twitter account at Misandry Today. And I maintain a blog I sometimes use at misandry-today.com.
Okay, do me a huge favor and let them know what misandry is, because a lot of people have heard this word, but they don't know what it is. Maybe you can elaborate on it for us.
Misandry basically, in its most basic terms, means man-hating. It's so misogyny is a hatred of women in a very general sense, and misandry is a hatred of men.
Okay, that was pretty damn simple. All right, and the next young man is a man after my own heart because he's feeding his cat. And you know I'm always feeding mine. I think I've overfed my cat because my cat is fat now, but it's happy. Talk to him, feeding the cat.
That cat is a happy cat. Anyway, yes, my name is Feeding the Cat. I work with TFM and DDJ. I'm a young Mgtow. I've watched a lot of content from Sergeant Woody Pete, you, Karen Strawn, moved on to TFM, and now, we get on, so I work with him a lot.
Okay, cool. So what is your stake in this thing? What is it that drew you? We'll start with you first. What drew you to the Mgtow lifestyle? Well,
it's the idea of self-ownership. I believe that no man should be forced to, be, a slave to the state. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it's in the United States or in the UK, where I'm from. I firmly believe that the laws are getting even worse for men that do want to cohabitate or get married or, just even deal with women.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now I want to go to TFM and ask him to help us out. TFM,
okay.
Can you explain to us what is the Mgtow, what is Mgtow, and what is the Mgtow lifestyle? What is the principles of it?
Okay, so the bar is extremely low just to be considered Mgtow. Basically, you have to be against what's called Gynocentrism, which is, this is a societal-wide issue where basically everything's about women. Everything needs to benefit the women. It doesn't matter what happens to men. They're disposable. Women are what matter. And the ultimate expression of gynocentrism currently is the modern form of marriage. Like way back in the day, you could say that marriage was a mutually beneficial arrangement, kind of like a business contract. Mm-hmm. The man provided certain services, the woman provided certain services. The man took care of the woman submitted to the man's authority. There was balance. It wasn't equal, but it was balanced. Well, starting about 100 years ago with first wave feminism and subsequent waves, all the benefits to marriage that were given to men, namely authority, was stripped away. And now there's literally no benefit to men. There's huge benefits to women because if a woman gets married to a man, she has unlimited access to his resources, even if they get divorced. She could cheat on him, still gets his money. She gets, quote unquote, her kids. He doesn't get anything. In fact, just looking at it from the two different perspectives, women get married for resources. And the government and marriage make sure that she has guaranteed access to those resources, even if the marriage ends. Men primarily get married for sex and companionship. The woman is under no obligation to provide either, ever. And the man, if the man doesn't provide for the woman, he says, you know what, I'm not giving you my money, she can take him to court and have him charged with domestic violence. But she could turn off the sex anytime, for as long as she wants. So you really just think about it objectively. There is no benefit to the man. There's no protections to the man. So why would anybody choose to get married in this current environment when all the benefits to marriage have been stripped away? And that's kind of that's just the lowest level of Mgtow, where you just understand how shitty marriage is. Oh, can I cuss? I don't know.
No, you can cuss your ass off.
All right. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to make you have to bleep me out or anything. But, saying anti-marriage is maybe a little bit hyperbolic. It's just an understanding that marriage is a really bad deal and you shouldn't do it and you shouldn't encourage it. And from a larger perspective, you should also understand the greater gynocentrism in society. Now, you can't do anything about it because women vote and they're the majority of voters and none of the laws are ever going to get changed. But what you can do is you can just recognize the situation, disengage, and reorient your life. Yeah, reorient your life. And that's the second part of Mgtow. So the first part of Mgtow is understanding that marriage sucks. Society basically hates you, wants to destroy your life and just use you up in the machine to just benefit women, benefit quote-unquote society, but fuck you. But then the second part is once you've walked away from that, once you've decided, you know what, I'm going to live for myself, I'm not going to, sacrifice myself for some woman, I'm not going to sacrifice myself for society, especially not a society that hates me.
Yep.
But then you have to decide, well, what am I going to live for? Now that, okay, I know what I'm not going to live for, but what am I going to live for? And that's where Mgtow philosophy comes in. So it's not just about being anti-marriage or anti-gynocentrism. It's also about self-actualization, finding your new meaning, your new purpose. And it's not something that someone can tell you. It's something you have to find for yourself. So I've done several series about it, but Mgtow philosophy in a nutshell is all about sovereignty and self-ownership, walking away from a system that hates you and wants to destroy you, and creating like a system of one. And Mgtow can come together. We share knowledge. We share like a bond. But ultimately, you know, a Mgtow's path is lonely because you have to decide what your meaning and purpose is yourself, and you have to walk the path.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to DDJ. DDJ, TFM said a word a lot. Gynocentrism? Is that, am I
Gynocentrism.
Yes. What is that?
Gynocentrism is basically female focused. And again, I'm going to try to use layman's terms as much as I can for your audience and just in general. It's a female focused society. It's not necessarily as female focused or as overt as like a matriarchy, in other words, rule of the woman. But if you look at society the way it is today, and I'm discussing Western society primarily. So when I look at this, I'm looking at it from an American-centric society like United States, and I'm also looking at like Western European, Australia, Canada, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the idea of gynocentrism is that there's two elements of gynocentrism that exist in our society. On the left, we have feminism and the feminist movement, which everybody talks about. But what we don't talk about is the gynocentrism on the right, which is embodied by tradcons. And the reason why this is relevant, and this is
you introduced a new term. We don't know.
Traditional conservative. Thank you. You got me. All right. I'll try not to cry on that one. But no, I'm just saying that. So the idea here is that traditional conservatives, they experience gynocentrism on the right. It's like what Turd Flinging Monkey said. He said 100 years ago, marriage was a good deal for men and women. It wasn't necessarily equal, and the reality is that nothing in life is going to be equal. Some people are going to be taller, some people are going to be stronger, some people are going to be thinner or fatter, just naturally, and some people are going to have to work harder, and some people have natural talent. So nothing in life is real equal. But marriage used to be balanced. There used to be a social contract between men and women. Women did a certain thing in that social contract. Men did a certain thing in that social contract. Well, starting with, and it is near as I could tell, starting with second wave feminism, women no longer followed the social contract between men and women anymore. But the problem is that traditional conservatives still believe they did. So you have a lot of these hardcore traditionalists that go out there and they say, oh, well, you need to go out and get married. You need to go out and have a family. You need to go out. You haven't found the right woman yet. And we like to refer to this as male shaming.
Yes.
But because the reality is that, and I'm going to introduce another new term here, hypergamy, and it floats.
Hypergamy. I know. I think I know what that hypergamy, right?
Yeah, Yeah, there you go. Did I cut out? Yes. You guys? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So the other term is hypergamy, and hypergamy floats. And the hypergamy is the idea that, in a most general sense, that women will seek out the most resource they can get. The problem is that because hypergamy floats, women cannot commit to a lifelong relationship without consequences, so they'll automatically choose the better deal. So you'll see a woman who will monkey branch from a good stable relationship or a good stable marriage to another person who she thinks can provide better resources for her.
Yep.
And some women don't even do that. They go straight to the state.
They go straight to the state.
They marry the government and go on welfare.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you guys about, because I speak about black women a lot. And the thing is, I've noticed that it happens to every woman, but I only speak about this one group because this one group seems like they are really happy marrying the state. But I also admit that white men get destroyed more by by women, because you guys still fall into the whole idea of getting married. And I'm speaking to you, DDJ, because you did it twice. Have you noticed?
I had to make the mistake twice.
Yeah,
and I'm not white, just so we're on the same
okay.
page.
Oh, well, my bad. Well, I want to ask you: have you noticed that it's typically a white man's burden to where they will marry? Like, you'll see a white dude married 3 times and a black dude just have 3 babies mamas. Have you noticed this?
Well, I have, but I'd like to address that because this is something that I talk about in my book, but it's also something that the three of us have discussed on TFM's show, and that is feminists targeted the black communities and minority communities first.
Yep.
And I know you say the black community is the canary in the coal mine, and I completely agree with that. When I did the research for my book, what I found was that, like, Margaret Sanger, the racist founder of Planned Parenthood, she put her abortion clinics and put all her feminist resources in the minority ghetto communities first. And it wasn't just the blacks that were targeted, but the blacks at the time were the largest demographic. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I talk about is that in 1912 or 1910 census, blacks made up for 15% of the American population. Today, at the time that I wrote my book, blacks made up less than 13% of the American population. That's a loss of like 12%. So, you know, there's a lot of issues that deal with the minority communities, and they hit the minority communities hard. But if you notice, a lot of the hardcore feminists, a lot of the hardcore gynocentrists, they're black women. The black women hate men. I mean, feminism teaches you that men are evil and that the patriarchy is evil. And so you see this in these communities, and the problem is that this is a silent burden. So men are going to jail because they don't pay child support. Child support is wealth transfer from people who earn the money to people who don't. And this is something that we also talk about. And so, yeah, I was married twice, but more importantly, I worked in the family law system for over a decade, and I touched some pretty horrible cases, and what I went through was pretty rough as well. I mean, we can talk about that another time. But the reality is that it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, anybody who lives in a society that has adopted feminism or feminist policies or gynocentric policies. And I use feminism as kind of the catch-all term because gynocentrism is more of like a social philosophy, and feminism is more of a movement, and it's more of a political force. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anybody who lives in those societies who's a male, you walk around daily. You're going to get, you have the potential to be falsely accused of rape with this listen and believe stuff. You have, the opportunity to be falsely accused of domestic violence. In fact, they've changed the domestic violence laws to the point where they could just say, oh, well, he emotionally was abusive to me.
Yep.
Well, what did he do? Oh, well, he criticized the fact that I spent all the rent money on my hair. That was abusive.
Did you know that there's this thing?
Violence, or get the fuck out of her house.
Did you know that there's this thing called menacing, where you can actually be removed from your home for menacing a woman?
Oh yeah. In fact, what's interesting is that, and this is something that we've also talked about, is that the stalking laws are ridiculous. So anybody who's had any kind of extensive relationship with a woman, like a committed relationship, and I live in Washington State. So in Washington State, if you contact a woman twice, you're now considered stalking, and she's eligible to get a domestic violence restraining order against you and get you criminally charged. Now, let me break that down to how that really looks in practical terms. You and your girlfriend have an argument. She's in her PMS stage. She's flipping out. She's angry. She's more volatile anyway. She goes home. You call her on the phone. She doesn't pick up because she's like, "Fuck him. I'm still angry at him." Okay, there's your first contact. Now you're like, well, shit, she's not answering her phone. Well, I'm going to go be the good man. I'm going to go over to her house and try to apologize. So you go to the house, you knock on the door. There's your second contact. She can call the police at that point and have you arrested.
Believe me, sir, I know this.
And so, yes.
And the sad part about it is that we push this women are the victims as they turn around and try to tell us that they're equal. And I want to ask you, Mr. Catman, let me see if you can jump back up in here. When you hear about the situations in which DDJ just stated, and that women can say you raped them and it's your job to prove you didn't. Women can say you have a baby by them. It's your job to prove it's not yours. But before there's ever a test that says it's not yours, you are under the books of you must pay this child support. If that woman is shown to be lying about you raping her or assaulting her, nothing happens. Matter of fact, we have this thing called a rape shield law. There are men who've been trying to get women to stop calling them, and the woman has called them thousands of times, but he has a hard time getting a restraining order. But a woman can get one on a man, and get that man removed from his own house. Get this man taken from his own children. Let me ask you.
See, this is sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to top it off by asking, why is it that we as men aren't making as big a stink about stuff that on its face look ridiculous and unfair?
Because men are responsible ones. That's what it comes down to. Men are the ones that are going out, working hard, doing what needs to be done because they've been told by their father, and their father's father has told them, and it goes right the way back to antiquity that men are the ones that have to fall on the proverbial sword, as it were. And I think a lot of men are just getting tired of that now. So this is why you have Mgtow.
I can elaborate on that.
Please.
So men have what's called the dominance instinct, where women have hypergamy. They're complementary instincts. The dominance instinct compels men to acquire resources and territory. This goes back to before humans walked on two legs. So the males acquire the territory and the resources. The female choose who they want to mate with based on the resources they've acquired. That's hypergamy. The male equivalent is dominance. An effect of the dominance instinct is males do not empathize with other males. So when a man is being destroyed by unfair laws, like when a guy is getting falsely accused of rape, when a guy is getting his wallet ripped out of his ass in divorce court, the average man doesn't think that could be me. The average man thinks he probably deserved it. You see this with, they do these social experiments where a guy and a girl, like they're actors, they'll go out in public, start hitting the guy and screaming at him. Nobody does anything. And then the guy will start shouting back. He won't hit her. Maybe he'll push her or something. And then like 14 guys will tackle him. So basically, and the worst part of this is when a guy is divorce raped and he's mad and he's trying to share his story and warn other men, hey, this is what happened to me. It can happen to you. He gets told he just chose the wrong woman. Something's wrong with him.
Yep.
So men just have this. It's called an out-group preference, whereas women have an in-group preference. Women will believe each other, women will support each other, and men see other men as threats and competition because of the dominance instinct. And so they don't empathize and they don't cooperate. The only time they do is like when they're in a war together, or for some short-term goal, like they're on a team, like sports. But aside from those short-term goals, they don't generally empathize with each other. And that's why men just can't get anything done. But then the other issue is because we live in a democratic society with universal suffrage and women can vote, women are the majority of voters. So even if men did decide to raise a stink, they're not going to get any laws changed because the politicians want to get reelected. So if they piss off the women, they just lost their reelection. So it makes more sense to screw over men for those reasons. Men won't generally care because it's not happening to them at that moment. And they need the woman vote if they're going to get reelected and keep their job.
So what you're saying essentially is that men are looking at other men as competition to get women. And if they see that man falls off, i.e. she put him on child support and he went to jail, or she accused him of rape, whether he did it or not, that's our opportunity to be able to get the group of women that he probably had access to. So it's easy for us to go against him, thinking that we have now increased our odds with women, right?
Well, it's not that conscious. You got to think these are primal instincts that exist in animals. Primal instincts don't have like, I'm going to get laid. It just operates via pleasure and pain. So men feel aversion when they're around other men. They feel like they see men as threats and competition. They're on edge. They're, especially a stranger or, anything like that. And this is where racism comes from. It's a factor of this whole dominance instinct because you don't look like me, so I distrust you. It's part of the dominance instinct. Now but it all operates via pleasure and pain. The person isn't consciously thinking, I'm trying to get laid and I want to drive these men away so I can get all the pussy for myself. He just feels like he doesn't like this person. He doesn't know why. And the thing is, women, they live in this space because they're more emotional than logical. So if you try to pin a woman down and get her to explain why she thinks something or feels something, she can't explain it. She just feels it.
Yep.
Well, that's how these instincts work. You either feel something or you don't. You either feel pain or you feel pleasure. And you follow the pleasure or you avoid the pain. That's how instincts work. That's how animals function. That's how we evolved. So it's all very old. It's like old programming from a long time ago, and we're still running it.
Like somebody brought up, I know what that is. AWOLT. That means all women are like that, right?
Like that, correct. Now, I need to make a distinction because mostly women who I explain it, no matter how carefully I explain it, they just hear what they want to hear. So, I don't know. Anyway, when hypergamy is a universal instinct in women, it's actually tied to the maternal instinct. The woman is biologically and evolutionarily hardwired to try to seek out the best environment for creating offspring. Whether or not she actually wants to have children or not, she wants to have the most resources and the best environment so that she can have offspring and produce a good generation. That's the purpose. Hypergamy isn't evil. It serves a function. Now, this instinct doesn't necessarily translate into behavior in 100% of women. But all women have the instinct. The difference and what causes Mgtow and Gynocentrism to happen is, since all women have the hypergamy instinct, if they live in a society where their hypergamy isn't encouraged, like they don't have the kind of choices they have in the West, they don't have the kind of rights and freedoms they have in the West, they're not going to act on those instincts because there are social consequences for doing so. If you live in Saudi Arabia, you can't just up and leave your husband and go have sex with someone else because you're probably going to get stoned.
Right.
So the consequences curb behavior. Now, what happens is because some women don't act on their instincts, people say, oh, well, not all women are like that because, my granny stayed with Grampy for 50 years and she never cheated on him or divorced him. Well, she was raised in a different environment. There were consequences. That's why Grammy and Grampy didn't get divorced, because back when Grammy and Grampy were married, the man had some authority over his wife. All that authority has been stripped away. And then not only has the government and feminism taken all the consequences away from women, they actively encourage and reward women for acting on their hypergamy. So women are told all the time, just focus on your career, go ahead and have a baby, put the man on child support, we'll shower you with welfare.
Yep.
In fact, and then the welfare doesn't even count as income, so they pay no taxes on it.
Say it.
And they get all this stuff for free. Doesn't count as income at all. They're living middle-class lifestyles, but on paper, they're in poverty. And then people use that to justify even more welfare to women. Like they're already above the median income just by getting free shit.
One thing I had to discuss with a woman, and it was funny, that she agreed. I was glad that she agreed. As a young woman, I said, you're a young woman, right? And I said, now you've gotten to experience shit by just being around me, by just fucking me. That's all you're doing. You fucked me. That's it. You've got to travel to different countries. You got to be in hotels you couldn't afford. All types of shit you couldn't afford. But the man, he had to go out and work to get this shit. Now, I also had to point out, I said, now you notice if I was just a regular guy walking up to you and I was like twice your age, you would have been like, ew, you're my dad's age. But because I got some money, my age no longer matters. I can fuck a 19-year-old. She has no problem. I can fuck a 21-year-old, a 25. It doesn't matter. Now, men don't get a chance to do that thing, though. If a man wants to travel the world broke as fuck, well, he got to do some gay shit, I guess, because he can't just do this. But women can. Why is it that men don't stop and say to women, well, wait a minute, you're literally getting over just because of how you look, and you're having to put nothing out there. You're living the same life as other people who work their asses off to get what they have. Because everything I have, I work my ass off to get, and then a woman just fine, and she gets to fucking enjoy it because she got a fat ass or a cute face. But that's it. She didn't bring anything to the table.
I can explain that. It's actually not as unfair as you make it seem if you understand the difference between men and women. So here's the thing. Women get, it's called sexual marketplace value. It's basically just a term. Think of it like a 1 to 10 scale.
No, wait. I think you may not understand me. Like, I get that it exists. Men, we don't have a problem with it. I don't mind the idea of, I know you want me for what I have because I want you for what you got. Like, that's a fair exchange. Right. If you talk to most men, we understand that's a fair exchange. But women don't want a fair exchange. I'll explain that it actually
favors the man.
Go ahead.
You're making it sound like women have this really sweet deal. They actually don't. If you
I'm saying they won't accept it. They won't accept that is the deal. I know women have a shorter span. A woman's looks is shorter than my money. It is. A woman's at her best usually between the ages of 16 and 30. After that, shit's different. So they have a very small window.
Wall.
Yes, they have a very small window. Men, though,
They have about
go ahead.
They have about 10 years.
Yep.
To get, and actually, the thing is I think a woman peaks around 25, which means at 26, she's not going to be able to attract as good a man as she could a year ago, and it only goes down from there. So realistically, because you got to think a woman is legally able to have sex with random men at 18. They often go to college. They get out of college when they're like 23, 24, 25. They've already hit their peak. They just started their adult life, and they're already at their peak, and they have nowhere to go but down. So, and then they have until like 30, 35. After that, they're done. If they don't find a good man then, all they have are leftovers. And then the worst part is a lot of these women, especially really attractive ones, that have had a lot of boyfriends and used a lot of men during her 20s and early 30s, she's not going to understand that she can't attract those men anymore. So you see all these articles written by these women in their 40s, 50s, sometimes 60s. They're talking about how these men are so entitled. They think they deserve younger women, and it's all toxic masculinity and everything like that. The thing is they had their chance. The problem is they squandered it. It's like somebody who wins the lottery, and then within 5 years they're broke again.
Isn't that strange, though? Isn't that strange that women complain about young girls or young women getting more attention than them when they themselves were young at one point? Like why would you complain about something that you had an opportunity? The difference between a young woman and a broke man is not every man has an opportunity to be rich, but every woman has an opportunity to be young.
Well, youth is a huge part of their sexual marketplace value. The other ones are beauty, and I call it virtue. It basically just means how few sexual partners you've had. Yes. So if you are, you don't have to be that attractive. Let's say you're a 5. You're just you're like the girl next door. You're not fat or ugly, but you're not like anything special. But then you're like in your late teens, early 20s. You're at the peak of your youth, and you're also a virgin. You are probably you're an 8. Overall, you've gone from a 5 to an 8.
Very true.
However, your youth and your virtue are extremely temporary. So if you start having sex with random guys, or if you decide you're going to focus on your career, you're going to go back to being a 5, and then a 4, and then a 3. And then you rethink back when you were an 8, and all these guys were trying to get your number. All these guys wanted to date you. And now you're a 3. But you look in the mirror, and you look the same. You don't understand what happened. And it's because men and women have been fed this bullshit that men and women are equal, and both sexes project. And I'll give you 2 examples. Women project onto men that men are attracted to what they're attracted to. So a man or a woman is attracted to a man's resources, his career. Every article I read talks about a man has to have a career, he has to have money, he has to be established. A woman will not date a man or marry a man. She may date him if he's attractive enough, but she won't marry him unless he makes more than her. So, if she's making 6 figures out of some affirmative action bullshit job, she's not going to marry the cashier at Walmart. She needs someone who makes at least as much as her. But then they project onto men. And they're like, well, obviously, because I'm attracted to success, then men must be attracted to success. So they spend their 20s and their 30s climbing the corporate ladder, thinking that once they become these vice presidents, these companies, then, the Christian Grey billionaire is going to swoop in with his private helicopter and marry her. And Christian Grey is fucking a bunch of 20-year-old supermodels. Well, this 40-year-old vice president is wondering where all the good men are. But she refuses to lower her standards.
She's effectively priced herself out of the market.
Yeah,
she doesn't know it. She's thinking, where have all the good men gone? And
because in her mind, because she's judging herself by her standards to men, because she considers if she were a man making 6 figures at a vice president in her 40s, she would be a 10 to a woman. So she thinks because by her own standards, she's a 10, she demands a 10 man. While the 10 is looking at her like, bitch, you're 40. I'm going to go fuck these supermodels over here. Bye. But,
I don't understand why women don't get that. Like, if I work, well, here's the thing. What I don't understand what women don't get, and you guys can tell me if I'm lying. In the 8th grade, I realized that the 8th grade girl I wanted to fuck was getting fucked by the guy in high school. When I got in high school, I realized the girl in high school was getting fucked by the guy in college. When I got into college, I realized the girl was getting fucked by the local drug dealer or the motherfucker who didn't go to school. So what I realized was I'm not going to get the same girl of my same age at this same thing. But if I work my ass off and get what all those other guys had, which was money, power, and sophistication, when I get old, I will now be able to dip back like everybody else did. Every man, when he gets 40, the 20-year-olds look a whole lot better, and you have a better chance of getting them because you've established who you are. Now, women know this because they use it. They know for a fact the girl in the 8th grade with you looks down at you. She says, I'm more mature than the guys my age. Do they not say this when they're young? I'm more mature. I'm 20. I'm dating a 30-year-old because the 20-year-olds don't understand me. So after they've done all this fucking these older men and didn't get one of them to marry them, and now they've reached that 35, 40 age, now they're saying, why don't men who are the same age as me find me interesting? Well, bitch, you didn't find us interesting when we were 20.
I can explain that.
Go ahead.
Really quickly. So, like I said earlier, a woman's peak is around 25. A man's peak, by measuring his peak earning years, is in his early 40s.
Yep.
So basically, these women want the best of both worlds.
Say it.
They want to squander all of their youth getting fucked by all the Tyrones and Chads of the world, just getting bukkakied on. And then when they turn 40, when they're completely used up, they're an expired lotto ticket. And now they want a man in his prime, because a man in his 40s is at his peak earning potential.
Yep.
And she's ready to settle down. Now that nobody wants to fuck her, now she's ready to settle, but only for the top tier men. It's completely fucking delusional. But I want to give one example of how men also are guilty of this.
Say it.
When you hear about these nice guys, these these kind of unattractive guys who they pine for these attractive women and they try to be their friends. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to say it.
Cucks and simps.
These nice. Yeah. Okay,
yeah, we got several words for these guys: cucks, simps, manginas.
We don't need to celebrate it. Anyway, these nice guys, what they do is they project onto women, again, just like the woman's projecting, thinking that a man is going to be impressed by her career, because men desire a woman who's helpful and caring and compassionate. He projects it onto women because usually these men, they're not attractive, they have no money. The only thing they can bargain with is that they're nice. They're going to treat her better than these guys who are more attractive and have more money. So that's their way to try to get laid. But that's all they have to offer. And they're projecting onto women thinking, well, because I desire someone who's helpful and caring and compassionate, I'm going to be helpful, caring, and compassionate to the woman. Women are absolutely disgusted by that because unless they're lesbians, maybe, I don't know. But then you have a dick, and that's a whole other issue. So men and women need to stop projecting onto the opposite sex. You need to understand men and women are different. Men and women have different instincts because they have different reproductive roles. That's where all these things come from. Men have penises, women have vaginas. I'm sorry if this is the first time you've heard this, but because of those things, because of the reproductive dynamic, we desire different things in our sexual partners. We have different instincts. We have different tastes and preferences. And you need to understand that the biggest reason why all these lives are destroyed, and not just men, but women as well, is this bullshit lie that men and women are the same. That men and, gender is a social construct. And that's other bullshit. Mm-hmm. Now, and I say that as someone who identifies as a masculine presenting transgendered lesbian.
Jesus Christ, here it comes.
Oh, here we go, Tommy. You're gonna have to sit through this now.
I would love for you to break that down, but before you do it, I gotta ask. I'm glad you brought that up because I talk about those guys too. I'm sick and tired of these guys saying, "Oh, those women won't give a good guy like me a chance." And I'm like, hold on, what made you a good guy? You decided that you were the better option. Why? Because you some kind of punk who's afraid to walk up to women and talk to them. Whatever your issue is with women, you're now telling them they should like you more than someone else. When truth of the matter is, and nobody wants to say this on the men's side, that usually when we fuck one, we want to see if we can fuck two. So even if you're this nice guy, what great were you trying to offer this woman that this so-called other man that she gave a chance to wasn't going to do? Because remember, we're assuming that this guy who was saying, they don't give a good guy like me a chance. We're saying that this guy had no woman ever trying to talk to him. And usually when you find out who those guys are and you look into their past, the one thing you will be able to see about them is that there was one woman who treated them well and they treated her like shit. but they didn't get the woman they wanted. And where does that come from? Where these guys and girls are both trying to guilt the other party into giving them a chance. To me, that's what it looks like. It's like both sides of us are trying to guilt.
I actually did a video. I did a video back, I think in 2015, called TFM's Guide to Sexual Entitlement, Nice Guy Simps, and Obese Blimps. And you have the guys who, they use being a nice guy. And what they do is these nice guys are always going after women way out of their league.
Yep.
They need to go down to the burn ward, find a nice girl who's got like third degree burns all over, maybe a quadriplegic, or as I call a fuck pillow. And, just find a nice girl who just, missing some limbs, maybe a pirate, and settle down with her. You got to lower your fucking standards. But then women also do the same thing. As they get older and used up, they think they deserve these guys who, 6-figure salaries, 12-inch dicks. It's just not going to happen. People generally, if they can do better than you, they're not going to settle for you. Now, you can try to make up for that by being, a really kind person, being a good cook. But that's extremely, it's not going to make the difference. Like if you're unattractive, or if you're barren, or if you're fucking 60, I don't care how good you cook. I don't care. You can give the best massage in the world, but if your titties sag like deflated balloons, I'm not fucking you.
Why is it that they don't understand that? Like, men get it. Men, we understood in the 9th grade that the reason why the senior dude is going to get more pussy than you is because he got a leather jacket, he drive a car. We get it. So what we start doing is saying, man, I can't wait till I get to be a senior. We understand that women like men with money. So we start to say, well, I can't wait till I get money. We get that if you get to this point, this happens. Women seem to not understand this. They enjoyed their youth when they were young and everybody was throwing money at them trying to fuck them. Now that they've gotten old, they turn around and they say to the men that their age, because like the one thing I ask, if I talk to a woman my age, I will ask them, can you have children? Are you willing to? And the funny thing is, I've had women who were my age or close to my age who say this shit. And a man would never say this to a woman. Or not that I know of a man saying this very often. Women will say, oh, I got 3 kids by 3 different dudes. I've had enough kids. I'm not going to have any kids. I don't want to be a mom anymore. I've already went through that stage in life. Now, if me and this woman are the same age, both of us 40, but she telling me she don't have no more eggs, she already had kids, she ain't trying to do that no more. And me, I'm at the prime in which I would be the best father because I now have the money that matches the mindset, which matches everything. I have that. So this would be the time I would want to be a parent. But they feel like you should not want to be a parent because they've given away their youth and their eggs to somebody that didn't stick around. How is it that they're able to sell this, though? Because there are a lot of men who are believing it.
No, I'll explain it. So basically, this is a product of just the way adulthood happens. So a woman, again, I've explained, they get all their sexual marketplace value front loaded. So they hit their peak extremely early. As far as they're concerned, they go to high school, they graduate high school, they go to college, they get out of college, and everyone wants to fuck them. And they don't understand that this is not real life. This is a temporary condition because they're young. As far as they're concerned, and this is another product of women because they're not logical, they're emotion. They don't think, they feel. So as far as they know, this is what life is. Life is men just throwing money at you, begging you to fuck them. The world is at your feet. As far as they're concerned, this is what normal life feels like. Because as soon as they got out of college, men were throwing themselves at them. They don't understand, they don't understand what's going on. It's like somebody, you see these rich trust fund kids that never had to work a job in their life. They don't understand the world. They don't understand how money has to be earned and shit like that because they've never grew up in that world. Women as a group, they've never grown up in a world where men didn't worship them until they hit their late 30s, early 40s. So they don't understand. It's like waking up in someone else's body for your entire life. I mean, obviously not when you were a child, but as soon as you turned 18, as soon as you graduated high school, the entire world was laid at your feet.
No. I'm going to change that. I look at my daughters. I have daughters. The entire world is laid at a girl's feet when she's born. Look at how I
Well, I'm
treat my
talking-
little girls. They get given
Right.
shit. If they make a face or cry, they get more shit than a little boy would for that same thing. I think little boys learn to deal with rejection at an early age because they're told no by the first girl they try to talk to. They're told no by the first team they try to get on. They're told no by the first group of people they try to hang with. So we get used to hearing no pretty fucking quick. But when do women hear no? If a little girl cries hard enough, her dad's going to give her what she wanted.
Yeah, you're talking. I understand what you're saying, and that's true. That's more of the generalized gynocentrism we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. But going back to the original question, you were talking about why don't women understand that they have to lower their standards and be realistic, and I was just trying to explain that. It's because as soon as they became sexually active, as soon as they graduated high school, started college, they've been worshipped. Like men just worship young women, and they don't understand that this isn't real life. So they get older, men stop worshiping them. Men start laughing at them when they start dressing sexy and they have like liver spots and shit. Guys just laugh at them, and they don't understand that. Like, wait a minute, what happened? You're supposed to worship me. You've worshipped me my whole life. What changed? And it's painful. It's like a like a fish out of water.
Are they
story.
really shocked though? Because I hear young girls making fun of older women. Like they'll say, "I'm tired of going to the club and there's 40-year-old bitches in here trying to look sexy like us." I hear them make fun of older women like that. Like they watch the older women not, they will try to dress like them. Like me, I don't go to the club and try to dress like the 20-year-old guys. The 20-year-old guys should have their own lane. I shouldn't try to mess with their lane. But the women are the main ones who say 40 to do 20. They're the main ones who say 50 is the new 30. They are trying to convince you that age doesn't matter. Guys don't really do this.
Well, that's just because they don't think, they feel. So anything that's painful, and you see this all the time, women will never take responsibility for themselves. They always blame someone else. And when there's nobody around, they'll blame the patriarchy. So I say one of my anecdotes or catchphrases is responsibility is women's kryptonite. So, women will make fun of older women when they're young. They'll make fun of the old woman is at the club trying to pick up men, the cougars and shit. Yep. But then when they're the cougar, they won't connect the dots because it's painful. And to avoid the pain, they'll blame men. Oh, it's these men. They're so entitled, thinking they deserve younger women. It's the patriarchy holding me down. The government isn't giving me enough welfare. So it's always someone else's fault. It's always somebody else's responsibility. That's just women. They're children, honestly.
I just think women are funny. I think women are funny that they want a new car. They want a new dress. They like new shit, but they don't think that a man's supposed to like new shit at the same time. Like I tell women all the time, if you have a daughter and your daughter's in her teens, I don't think you should be dating. And they say, why? I say, well, when you keep bringing that man around your teenage daughter, he sees you, then he sees the updated version. He sees you, he sees the updated version. Why would you not think if this man has no tie to your child, but he keep hanging around your child keeps walking around at 18 with her Hello Kitty outfit on, looking like everything that you used to look like, why would you not think that man's attention is going to go towards the younger version of you when you go towards the younger version of the dress you're wearing, you go towards the younger version of the car you're driving? Men understand this. It seems like women don't understand this simple thing. Why?
I think this has to do with, again, the reproductive dynamic. Women, when you look at relationships in, the long ago and the before time, women traded up. They would usually join like a harem. There used to be polygamy and so forth. Women don't mind sharing a man, but men are more possessive of women. It all goes back to the reproductive dynamic. You see, species like lions, where you have tournament mating species where there's one male and there's like all the females, and then as soon as the adolescent males grow, they get cast out and they have to form their own pride.
Right.
And most of them die. So it's nature. I think the problem is, and women would benefit from this as much as men would. We need to throw away all this bullshit about men and women are the same, and it's all interchangeable. It's just genitalia. But a woman can do everything a man can do, and a man can do everything a woman can do, and there's no difference between the sexes. It's complete bullshit, and it hurts everyone because you're not allowed to talk about the differences between men and women because men and women are different. And when you aren't told men and women are different, or when you're lied to and you're told, oh, you can do everything a man can do, and you squander your life, you have a legitimate grievance against the people who lied to you. And I don't blame the women. I mean, I laugh at them for being entitled and not lowering their standards. But at the same time, they were lied to. They were sold a bill of goods by feminism, telling them to focus on their career and don't worry about settling down. Wait till you're in your 30s. And it's bullshit. If you want the best man you're ever going to get, I don't know how big your how much of your subscribers are women. Mine are like 3% or something. But
I have a high percentage. Women actually like listening to me. I'm actually getting a lot of women send me messages right now saying you are doing a good job. The majority of women who listen to me, they're not bothered by truth. Now, the majority of women are bothered by truth, but again, this is two different segments. The women who listen to me understand I'm not going to pull punches for you. I don't give a fuck who you are.
My message to women is, if you want the best man you can, you need to settle down between 18 and 25. That is your peak marketplace value. That's when you're going to attract the best man you're ever going to attract. And have your kids young. And then when you're in your 30s, once your kids are older, going to school, then you can focus on your career. And then you get to laugh at the women who they wasted their 20s, getting bukkakied and, climbing the corporate ladder. And now they're trying to freeze their eggs and spending tens of thousands of dollars to have retard babies. And you've already had your kids. Now you can focus on your career. And you're the same age as them. You're like, and in a couple of years, you'll catch up to them anyway. So you didn't lose anything. You're going to have healthy kids. And you're going to get a better man. Now, the problem is a lot of these women, because of feminism, they get sold a bunch of bullshit. They do that. They marry young. They have some kids. And then they get told, oh, divorce your husband. You could do better. Oh, yeah, you're still young. And they do. And you see these articles written by these women talking about how they left the love of their life because they thought they could do better, and now they're alone. Or you got this one video I did on this woman who she wanted an open relationship. And just so you know, guys, if a woman ever floats the idea of an open relationship, let me translate that for you. What she wants to do, because if she just wanted to fuck other people, you could go to swingers parties or key parties and just, do partner swaps. She wants to date other people because she wants to replace you, but she doesn't want to be single.
Yep.
She wants to fuck other dudes and see what else is out there, what else she can attract. If she can do better than you, she's going to leave you.
But let's be honest, dudes who want to have an open relationship is doing that too. If he says, I just want an open relationship and fuck other people, what he's saying is, you're not the one for me, but I would still like to be able to fuck you until I find the one for me. That's a kind of two-sided thing.
I want you to keep my dick properly moisturized in the meantime.
So men ain't shit either. When we say that, we're just trying to screw you over too.
Well, see, the thing is generally, people don't like settling. So if I'm a 10, if I'm making six figures, if I'm Christian Grey, and you're a 5, I know I can do better than you. So I'm probably not going to stick around too much. Even if you're a great person, I'm going to at least try to do better than you because I know I can. And women are the same way. So you need to be realistic. Now, and my attitude is, if you ever happen to date someone who's clearly out of your league, just enjoy the ride. Women are like roller coasters. The wait is long, the ride is short, and there's a line of men behind you. So you ride the ride and you move on.
I want to ask you then. I posed a question earlier to the young man, DDJ, and I was talking about how white men they will have 3 marriages, but black men will have 3 babies mamas. We're getting beat differently, so we see things from a different perspective. But are we truly getting beaten by women differently, or are they just using the system that both of us feel comfortable with? Because black men feel comfortable being somebody's baby daddy. Being married isn't something that we see in our community. That's why only 24% of black women will ever get married. But white men see marriage as a normal thing. So when they do it once, they feel like they need to do it a second time and a third time. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because to climb up the social ladder as a white man, you kind of can't do it as a single man if you are in corporate America. So they actually need wives. Look at Giuliani. He got a wife just so he could run for president. And I'm not lying. He literally got a wife to run for president. You watch the different ways in which the white men handle the court system and get screwed over by the court system, and the black men get screwed over by the court system. What are your thoughts on those two different dynamics?
it has to do, it actually is kind of intertwined with politics. So as I talked about it before, or maybe I didn't mention, I don't know. I've talked about it so much, I don't know when I mention it or don't. So left-wing gynocentrism is feminism. Right-wing gynocentrism is traditionalism. Now, if you look at the voting records or statistics of, the racial breakdown, white people tend to be more right-wing, and black folks tend to be left-wing. Now, you just got to think, because feminism is left-wing gynocentrism and traditionalism is right-wing gynocentrism. That's what you see in these communities. So because the black community is mostly, liberal Democrat. So it's going to be run by feminism. What is feminism? Feminism is men sacrificing themselves directly to the woman. So this is where you have the baby's mamas. This is where you have the welfare state. It's women marrying the state, using the man as a sperm donor just to get child support and shit. And that's a feminist utopia, is women being strong and independent, because they're not strong and independent. I call it the illusion of independence, because they still need a protector and a provider, and it's all paid for by men, but they use the government as a middleman. So the government showers them with welfare and affirmative action, make work jobs, and they think they're independent, but it's all bullshit. Now that's the black community. In the white community, because it's more right wing, it's more traditional. Now, in traditionalism, it's just as gynocentric as feminism. Neither side gives a fucking shit about the men. But traditionalists, they're not necessarily telling men to sacrifice themselves for the women. They're telling them to sacrifice themselves for family and for society. So it's the same thing. The man is still sacrificing himself. Fuck him in his dreams. Fuck him in any illusion of mutual benefit. He needs to jump on the sword. I call it be a good cow. Just walk proudly into that slaughterhouse, become a cheeseburger. That's what good cows do. And that's what you hear in the white community. It's not a racial thing. It's like a political thing. Anybody who identifies as right wing, because you see this in the alt-right, the white nationalists, it gets super bad the further you go to the right.
Yeah, but I see those white liberals falling into that same. You said no man should get married, but those white male liberals fall into that too. They'll get married 3 and 4 times. They will have 3 women. Look at nobody's more liberal than Mr. Robin Williams. He had 3 different wives who was sucking off him to the day he died. Phil Collins, another white man, getting screwed over by women he fucked. There's no woman who I used to fuck who I get to fuck once every other weekend because we broke up. But there are women who literally get to say to the courts, well, I got used to living this lifestyle while I was dating him. See, the woman who sued Bill Maher, I got used to the lifestyle while I was dating him. So the lazy bitch wants you to continue to give her that lifestyle because y'all broke up, but she don't have to continue giving me head or pussy because we broke up. And men are still not understanding you're being openly screwed, and especially the white men, because the white men are watching Tom Cruise have to see his kid once a week with a supervisor there. Women don't have to go through this crap. The white men are watching that women can fuck you. Go ahead.
No, I think it's. I know there are people who identify as liberal and they still get married. I'm not saying it's a complete one for one. I'm just saying it's an element that you can look for. The feminism tends to be like groups that tend to lean left tend to be more dominated by feminist ideology.
Very true. Yes.
Whereas groups that lean right tend to be dominated by traditionalism. And both of them are gynocentric. Neither of them care about men, which is why Mgtow opposes both. So people try to throw Mgtow, turn it into a political movement. It's not a political movement. There are people on the left who are Mgtow, and there are people on the right who are Mgtow, because it's about rejecting the exploitation of both sides and living for yourself. That means obviously being anti-feminist, because feminists want you to check your privilege and sacrifice yourself for them. But it also means rejecting traditionalism that wants you to sacrifice yourself for family and for country and shit. Now, I'm fine protecting what's mine. Like you try to steal my shit, we're gonna have words. But if I have no ownership, if I have no stake, when you've taken my authority away from me, when you've stripped me of everything, and you openly hate me, fuck you. I'm not going to die for you. I'm not going to fight for you. I'm not going to try to defend people who hate me. Fuck you. Go fight your own wars. And, you can call me whatever names you want. All you have to do is you have to offer me something in return. The only thing I hear from traditionalists is shame. Telling you you're not a real man, you're a coward. Your race is dying. You need to have white babies and shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Like there was a time where men had they had authority over their families. That's what's missing. People say we need to restore the family. We need to restore traditional values. That's a euphemism. We need to restore male authority. That's the missing element. But to restore male authority means you have to take freedoms and authorities away from women, because all this freedom and authority feminism has given women has come at men's expense. So the only way to restore the family is you got to scale back all the rights and freedoms women were given. And that, I mean, I've done it. I've openly called for it, but it makes you seem like a crazy extremist that nobody wants to listen to. But that is the only solution. Otherwise, you're just saying sacrifice yourself and we'll stop calling you a coward. But fuck you. I don't care. You give me all the white feathers you want. I'll make a fucking Indian headdress and I'll do a rain dance for you.
Do you mind if I weigh in here real quick?
Go ahead.
The issue is that at least in the United States, rights used to be linked up with responsibilities, right? So, and you see this in the professional life, a CEO or a business manager has more responsibilities. Therefore, he gets more rights within the company he works for, right? He gets more privileges because he's earned them, because he's worked for them. And you don't see that with women. Women measure their value and their success by who they've spread their legs for. Men measure their value and success by what they've personally achieved in life. And so when you look, for example, and I did some of this research for my book, you look, for example, when you talk about feminism and you talk about how it's been cancerous, and this is something that TFM and I have talked about, feminists actually voted against women voting. When it came time for women to get the vote, it was tied to military conscription. It was tied to service. Again, this is that rights were tied to responsibilities. That's what our country was made on. And so when women were like, oh shit, we're going to have to go to war, they're like, no, we don't want voting rights. We don't want it. We're good. We're good without it. And then finally, when the Congress said, well, we're going to give you voting rights, but you don't have to go to war, that's when it passed in 1920. And this idea that women had been oppressed, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. The only thing that I was able to find where there was actually a patriarchal society that is patriarchal in the way that feminists have redefined it. I mean, we've always had patriarchy, and like TFM said before, there was a balance in that patriarchy, and families were stable and communities were safe, and these things worked out. But the only society that I've ever been able to see that has been truly oppressive of women has been societies that have followed Sharia law. You don't see. I mean, you step out of line, you go outside without your burqa on, guess what? You're getting an ass whooping. You can't drive, you're getting an ass whooping. Well, and so, go ahead.
Well, I want to know though, like, if you see in these different regions and places of where the rule of what women do, they are different. And I've said, when women ask the question, well, what happened to chivalry? I say, well, feminism killed it. You cannot have them both. But women seem to want their cake and eat it too. And there are several men who are white knighting for them. There are men who are going against their own self-interest. As TFM said, they're gladly walking along into that slaughterhouse, and they're trying to force other people to walk along with the exact same smile.
No, they want the men that aren't the cucks. They want those men to fail. This is all about sexual access, and this is about they're trying to virtue signal to the women to get laid. Mm-hmm. This goes all back to that biological instinct that TFM discussed earlier. These men don't even realize that they're doing it. But the idea is that rights used to be linked to responsibilities, and yes. One of the things that living in a gynocentric society has destroyed is that actions have consequences for women. That's part of the reason why I wrote The Feminist Lie. It's the reason I'm writing my next book. It's the reason why I became Mgtow, is that you see that women want all these privileges and rights, but they don't want the responsibilities that go with them. They don't want to pay the tab at the end of the night.
If you think about like what's going on, I just looked, and we have 1,300 people watching. I'm over my one-on-one channel, and we have 700 likes, but we have 103 dislikes. Now, I've called women bitches, hoes, sluts, and talked all kind of stuff and not got that many dislikes. You guys have not said anything as vulgar as what I say. But just this idea of you talking to men and saying it may not be a good thing is getting that kind of reaction to where I got 100 dislikes.
Well, I can address that.
Please.
The issue is that by telling men don't play the rigged game at the casino. Don't commit to a woman who's gonna take you for your resources and then leave you. Women don't like that. They don't like that reality check. They don't like the fact that the game that they spit to men to separate them from their resources and then divorce rape them later, or falsely accuse them of DV, or falsely accuse them of rape. They don't like people finding that out. It frustrates them. It infuriates them. That's why you see anytime somebody talks about Mgtow in the media, they always try to reframe us as misogynists. They always try to reframe us as women haters and or the lonely guy in the basement. And the reality is the exact opposite. You know, the reason Mgtow walked away is exactly what you said. But it's not that feminism has killed chivalry. Feminism and gynocentrism have destroyed the social contract between men and women. And the reality is that in doing that and in creating the sexual liberation culture, guess what? You can get a piece of pussy for a large fry. You don't need a long-term investment no more. You can get it for a large fry. You can call her an Uber or pay her bus fare and she's leaving. And she's happy to do it. Pussy is free. It is free. And everybody has figured this out. And so, you know, don't be upset if you're a woman listening. Don't be upset if you're 25 years old and you've had 75, 100, 150 partners. And no man wants to settle down with you, or no man who knows you will commit to you, because everybody knows that what your game is. They know what the program is. That's why you see these women that they will destroy their life riding the cock carousel, and then they will move across country, and they'll try to pretend and virtue signal like, oh, I'm not a hoe.
Yeah, women are good at just move. They leave their whole past behind. They'll just go to another straight up state.
It's just that they don't respect a man's sexual imperatives. They don't respect a man that wants to settle down and have kids and on his terms. They don't respect that. What they want is to be able to, grow up, ride the cock carousel. Then when they're 45 with a fucking vagina that hangs like a wizard tunic, they that's when they want that good guy, and they want him, and they want to settle down and have kids and be happy, live happily ever after. But a lot of men see that, and they just see the desperation in a lot of these women's faces, and they think, no, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Well,
right.
Well, that's a one way of talking about it, and I want to know if you guys can answer this part of it. You had alluded to it earlier, DDJ, and that's the part of, they tend to think that people in the Mgtow movement are just guys in the basement, dudes who can't get pussy. So it's their way of responding back. What would you guys say to that?
Well, the reality is that we've had Mgtow guys for a long time. They used to be called confirmed bachelors. You look at Leonardo DiCaprio. He doesn't commit to women. He doesn't get married. He gets
George Clooney waited till he was what,
60? Yeah, he's old. He's successful. You see this all the time, and there's Mgtow in movies and theaters. But I think TFM is actually better equipped to address this than I am.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the shaming, it's basically because in their mind, they have to make it true. Otherwise, they have no leg to stand on. Especially, you hear more of the shaming from traditionalists than feminists. I mean, feminists will just say that you hate women, and try to get you censored and shut down. That's their only play.
But TFM, I've gotten called a faggot though. Well, by these same women who their best friend is a homosexual. That's when I tell them I'm a transgendered lesbian, and they're being transphobic, and that usually shuts the conversation down. But when it comes to the traditionalists, they're the ones who rely on shame, and it's because it's the only thing they can offer. They know. Like, if someone's like, oh, Mgtow need to get married, they need to do their part. I'd be like, what benefit is there to men to get married? Why should a man get married? Why should a man risk his life, have his kids taken away, have his wallet ripped out of his ass in divorce court? How is that going to make the man's life better? They either come with two things. Either they shame you and tell you you're a faggot or whatever, or they have like a Jesus complex. And they talk about how real men sacrifice themselves. And they try to make this sound like this great thing, like the fucking Japanese trying to indoctrinate someone to become a kamikaze pilot. Just fucking fly your plane into that ship. It's great. You're going to have 72 virgins. I think I'm confusing some ideologies, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
They have nothing to offer. So they use shame, and then they try to or if you're religious, they'll try to play the Jesus angle. They'll try to talk about how Jesus sacrificed himself. So you having kids and getting your life destroyed in divorce court and killing yourself, well, that's just like Jesus. Jesus went to family court for your sins and paid alimony and lived in his car. So, you want to be like Jesus, right? So it's fucking bullshit. And when I talk to the white nationalists, they're like, oh, the white babies, we're never going to be any white babies. I'm like, take women's rights away. Take women's rights away, you solve the problem. I've done videos where I look at the studies. Right now, the West is not reproducing. No Western country has a fertility rate over 2, which is you would need that to sustain your society, which is why there's all this immigration. It's the only way to pay for the welfare state. You need a growing population. And if your native population is going to reproduce, you got to import it. And what increases fertility, the main things that destroy your fertility and destroy your society is giving women education and career choices. As soon as you let women get educated, go get a job, be financially independent, they stop having kids. And your society is destroyed. So all these white nationalists, they want to start a fucking race war. They want to go to war against everybody, all the brown people, kick them all out of their country. All you got to do is take your own women's rights away, and you'll start having kids again, and you won't be replaced. So if there's any white people out there who are worried about the fucking demographic winter and the white genocide, take your women's rights away. Stop worrying about what the Muslims and black people, stop worrying about all that shit. They're not the ones keeping your women from having the precious white babies you keep bitching about. So address the problem. And when I talk to some white nationalists about that, trying to wake them up, some of them get it, some of them don't. Some just call me a Jew, which is funny because I'm like a chimpanzee. So whatever.
You know what's funny? I had a woman, I told people about it. When I got off the plane, when I came from Chicago, it was a white woman, an old white woman, and she talked to me for a long time, and she said her husband just died a few years ago, and she's a widower. Well, as I got ready to exit the plane, her last words to me were this: don't get married. This was a woman who had been married, and I said, why do you say that? I didn't know why she was saying that. She said, you're a young man, which I'm not. But she would say, you're a young man. She said, you seem to have your stuff. She said, you seem to have your stuff together. She said, I looked on Google. I know who you are. And she said, if you marry a woman, all she's going to do is take all of that hard work you put into yourself and take half of it. She says,
exactly.
At your age, you're either going to marry a woman that's your age, that's bitter, or a young woman who's trying to take. She said, since you're not married yet, it wouldn't be a good idea for you to do it now when you're at the peak of your earning potential. This is a white woman said this to me, who did not know me from Adam. And I was so shocked that she said this. Why do you think that there are actually some women who are starting to look at the Mgtow way and understand it?
I think, well, once they get over their own ego, the problem is a lot of women, especially when they're lonely and bitter, they don't want to admit that they fucked up. It's much easier to blame someone else for your mistakes and to take responsibility. Now, she's a widower. She's probably got plenty of life insurance. She lived a full life with her husband. She has no reason to be bitter at this point. So she could admit it because it doesn't apply to her. It's kind of like, when you're dating a girl and all your buddies are warning you about her, but you can't see it because you're too close to the problem. But then after the relationship is over, then you can see it. You can see all the things your buddies were warning you about. So sometimes, when the woman you talked to in the airplane, she was more or less an unbiased third party, because she wasn't one of these bitter women in their 50s who couldn't find a man because they wouldn't lower their standards. She could see kind of without any ego what's really going on. Mgtow makes sense. And Mgtow is the only rational choice men have in the current environment. Now, once shit goes down, because the welfare state's going bankrupt.
Yep.
Once the welfare state goes bankrupt, once the government can't pay all these single moms, because the welfare state is the single mom state. Almost all the welfare goes to single moms. It's fucking pathetic. Single moms and retirees, which are overwhelmingly women, because men work themselves to death. So they work themselves to death, and then all the benefits go to women. It's bullshit. But once all that goes away, and once women, and then of course, not only will the welfare go away, but if the government collapses, all these affirmative action, make work quota jobs go away too. So all these strong, independent women that don't need no man, that need a man like a fish needs a bicycle, all of a sudden they're going to lose their welfare and their job instantly because they're worthless pieces of shit. And the only reason why they had a job in the first place is because the company didn't want to get sued. And then people they're going to need a man because they can't survive without a man.
Yep.
You see these reality shows where like they put men and women on different islands, and the men like are building like fucking Swiss Family Robinson log cabins, and the women are like holding each other for body heat while they get rained on because they can't survive.
And then they
men.
adopt the pig instead of kill it for food, and then they name it.
No, I've already said that. I said there's no great civilization that was built by women other than the motherfucking Amazons in the DC comics. There's no other place on planet Earth.
There are matriarchal societies, but they never last. When you have a matriarchal society, when the females dominate the males, you see this in bonobos, which are subspecies of chimpanzee. They are matriarchal because they have no predators. They live in this really fertile area of the Congo. So they didn't have to work for their food. They didn't have to fight any other species for their food. So they became matriarchal over time because without the need for men to protect and provide, the women began dominating the males. They began breeding with weaker men that were more easy to dominate. And the bonobos became smaller than their cousins, the chimpanzees. When they were first discovered, they were called pygmy chimps because they were so small. And they weren't just small, they were fucking retarded. Like you compare a bonobo's intelligence to a chimpanzee, the chimpanzee's much smarter. The bonobos, though, are seen as like this feminist, like sacred cow because they're matriarchal and they're a close relative of humans. But it's all bullshit because like any matriarchal society, you're going to have weak men in that society, which means if you have anything worth stealing, if you're like matriarchal societies that don't get conquered, they're only not conquered because they're poor as shit and they have nothing worth stealing and they're so isolated that they're too hard to even get to. So people don't even bother with them. But if you're a society that is anything worth taking, and you are matriarchal, and you see this right now as feminism has grown, as I wouldn't say we're a matriarchy, but gynocentrism, the more out of control it gets, the weaker men get. You can see this effeminization of men. There's all this bullshit about toxic masculinity. We need to turn men into women. We need to fucking make them wear glitter and dresses because that's what real men do. When you do that, and you don't live in this poor, isolated area, you're basically painting a big target on your back. And this is what's bullshit. When the conquerors come, the women are going to be fine. The women will be taken as war brides and rape slaves. They're not going to die. The men are going to die. These white knight cucks who they believe in equality and egalitarianism and this other bullshit. They're the ones who are going to be summarily executed and buried in shallow graves, while the conquerors fuck your daughters and your wives and your sisters.
And the fact that men don't have a problem with this, I keep trying to explain it to men. Those women are going to look at you, and whenever the conqueror comes and decides to kill that group of men, those women are going to die with you. They're going to go and suck those new dudes' dick. If you don't believe me, just look at any girl you with right now. Your dick ain't the first one been in her mouth and probably won't be the last. So that means she has no problem with switching dicks. So I don't understand why dudes are giving up their lives for women who could give a shit less about them. I notice right now, if I get into a fight,
explain it. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I just want to say this.
I can explain it, but
please, I'm gonna let you do it. But I just want to say this. I know right now, if I get into a fight, if a dude grabs the girl's ass I'm with, and I get into a fight with that dude, and he kills me, the girl that I'm with is not gonna say, you know what, my man stood up for me. I'm not gonna fuck anybody else for the rest of my life because this man lost his life trying to protect me. No, she's not. She's gonna fuck several other people after I gave up my life trying to defend her damn honor. Go ahead.
So men have a protector instinct. This all goes back to our primitive instincts. Men of all kinds of animal species will protect their female mate. So men put their lives at risk. And in fact, this is a quality of male love. And it's a quality that female love does not have. I've done a video called She'll Never Love You where I explain this. Because it's all love itself is a product of the reproductive instinct. Like in Rick and Morty, love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. So the male reproductive role is that as a protector and a provider. So male love is very selfless and sacrificial. The female, she just accepts the protection and the provision, and she provides for the children. So the female's love is not selfless. You never hear about women and girlfriends taking a bullet for their boyfriend or their husband. They'll protect their children, but they won't protect their husband. That's his job. It's all based on the reproductive dynamic. And if you understand that, everything makes sense. The reason why women are so mysterious is because people are trying to make them fit into a box. They're this ideology of equality, which doesn't work. It's not based on anything real. It just feels good to believe in, even though it's wrong.
Yeah. and somebody talked about it. Like in my young years, I saved a woman from getting raped. They were going to rape this woman. I was out there fighting with these dudes to stop her from getting raped. I'm 41 now. I don't know where this woman's at. I don't know anything about this woman since that day when I saved that woman from being raped.
Yeah.
Now, you look at a lot of...
She's probably being raped right now.
Right. But you look at what a lot of guys do. We've been expected to, women and children first. That's why I describe women as typically like retarded children, because when you have retarded kids in class, they're able to throw shit up against the wall. They're not expected to do much of stuff. And no matter what it is that they do, you give them a pass. Well, look at women. Women can throw drinks in a man's face, and the man is supposed to restrain himself, not the woman. A woman can slap a man. The man should restrain himself, not the woman. Women can argue at a man. If a man argues back with the woman, they say that man a pussy for arguing with a woman. Women have gotten so comfortable being in that upper level over men that they'll talk shit to you like that. You a pussy. I hit you in the face. You won't hit me back. But if you hit him back, you a pussy. You hit a woman. Like, literally, they're playing both sides of the fence, but it's men's fault for allowing this. Why are men still? I'm going to keep asking this because we can blame the women, but women wouldn't be able to get away with none of the shit they're getting away with if men decide, no, today's the day we're going to quit. Because to be honest, it happened in the Middle East. If I'm not mistaken, it happened in Saudi Arabia. Didn't Saudi Arabia at one point in like the 50s, the women were able to wear pants. They didn't have to wear that shit over their head. And then one day the men just decided, fuck that shit. We're going to go back to this. And the women couldn't do shit.
That was Iran.
Iran.
That was Iran. Yeah, that was the Ayatollah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Ayatollah of Iran, or Iran, or however the fuck you're supposed to pronounce it. He was a Western ally. He was an ally of the United States. He was trying to basically modernize and westernize Iran. And basically he was overthrown. And that's where the mullahs took over and they reimposed traditional Islam. You see this occasionally, and the thing is America exports feminism in the form of foreign aid.
Yes.
So we make friends with these countries. We dangle money in front of their face, but they have to open abortion clinics, and they need to educate their women. They need to give their women voting rights, and then we'll give them this money, and that's how we get our foot in the door. And then we just export feminism. And I think the idea. And I call this the bonobo protocol. I have no idea if this is true. Now, this is like my conspiracy theory. I think because of World War I and II, people are concerned that if there's ever another world war because of nuclear weapons, it's going to be the end of humanity. So they're trying to make humanity more peaceful to avoid World War III. Well, bonobos, they're dumb as shit, and like they like to rub their dicks together like they're trying to start a fire, but they're very peaceful. They don't kill each other. They don't do a lot of violence. So the idea is if you make humanity more matriarchal, you may avoid World War III. You'll make humanity fucking retarded, and it won't function correctly. You're going to regress society back to a primitive shithole, but people will be alive. I think that's the idea anyway. There's obviously a lot of negative consequences and trade-offs for that, but I think when you're looking at nuclear holocaust, or a bunch of matriarchal primitive shitholes, one's slightly the lesser of two evils.
It just feels like to me that when it comes to women, like people love to say, well, if women ran the world, it would be less violence. But that's not true. Most violence that happened against children, who's perpetrating the violence against children? Female.
Right. It's a women. But even in bonobos, if the male bonobos get out of line, the women hold him down and bite his dick off.
See?
They'll bite his dick and his fingers off. But here's the thing: they won't kill him. In chimpanzees, for example, the chimpanzees will actually form troops and go to war with other tribes of chimpanzees and kill them all. Like they'll kill all the men and they'll take all the women, just like in humans. It's basically like monkey ISIS. So they'll go in, kill all the men, take all the women as mates. That's chimpanzees. Bonobos don't do that. So that's why they're considered better. It doesn't mean there's no violence. It doesn't mean things don't happen. It's just, again, child abuse, as bad as I'm not excusing child abuse in any capacity, but when they're talking about peaceful, they're talking about war. Women, yeah, they're going to abuse their kids. They may bite men's dicks off and they may do violent things, but they're not going to go to war because they're going to weaken things. It's just women are peaceful in that way. If there'll never be an actual gender war where the feminists take up weapons and go to war against the men.
Because they're not stupid. They know they would lose. They're not
They
stupid.
get
The
their
women, if
fucking
the women
asses
ever got equal to men physically, they would fight us, guaranteed. Listen to the way they talk to us. If women ever thought they could win, they'd do it. Women don't like men like that. They just, if you look at who built the Twin Towers, look at all of the old video footage. You don't see one woman walking around there. If you look at most cops, they will tell you when a female cop is there, she needs male backup. So this female getting her ass whooped, no matter how much she been to the gym and shit, by a regular old dude who's never been to the gym, but she getting fucked up by him. So another male cop has got to come and help this female out. When you watch the WNBA, if women claim that they're equal, then why not let men play in the WNBA? They won't. But as soon as a woman is close to being good enough to play with men, what do you think they're going to let her play? They're going to put her in the NBA. They're going to give her a fucking shot, but they won't let a man go play with them.
Yeah, they're gonna make her like the all-star of the world, even though she's basically functioning at the level of a low-tier man.
That's right.
They're gonna act like she's like the greatest thing ever. She's like the Muhammad Ali of the NBA because she has a vagina.
Look at that bullshit they did with the bitch who kept getting beat by those women, but before she was beating Ronda Rousey. This bitch was able to come out and openly say, I could beat Floyd Mayweather. Now, his response to her was considered misogynist and sexist. But if a man said I can beat Floyd Mayweather and he responded, I will fuck you up, nobody will have a problem. If he responds to this woman who brought the challenge to him that I will fuck you up, he's a sexist. So why is she allowed to speak this way?
Because, no, here's the thing. Women are children. And just like a child, you talk them, they're retarded children. I wouldn't go that far, but they are children. And when you tell them the truth and it's uncomfortable and you upset them, people are going to white knight for them. In fact, there was a video called from ASAP Science talking about how men and women were smart and, nobody's smarter. There's all kinds of studies. I've done several videos on it that men are smarter than women on average. I have peer-reviewed research. All these charts. It's a fact. Men are smarter than women. Deal with it. Now, I've done several videos on this. I'm not calling women any sort of names. I'm not talking about, women are sluts. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm showing the research that men are smarter than women. I get all kinds of comments on those videos talking about how I've been hurt. Yep. I'm a pussy. I hate women, because I'm pointing out that the statistics show that men are smarter than women. Period. And then you even look at the examples they keep trotting out, like a Mary Curie and shit like that. Mary Curie and her husband worked on shit together. The husband died, and Mary got all the credit for it. But then she ended up killing herself because she was wearing protective gear and she was handling radioactive material. So she wasn't even that fucking smart, but she gets credit like she's this like feminist pioneer because her husband was doing the work and she was on his team. And then when he died, she got credit for it. It's like these two female rangers, like back when the feminists were pushing for female rangers, these two female rangers magically passed. No female rangers have passed since then. Now that the attention's off of them, the feminists have moved on to another target. That was the end of the female rangers. And then, they tried to push a female SEAL and she quit within a week. So they can't do it. But if you point out, look, women are inferior to men. Not in everything. I'm not saying men are better than women in everything. Like, women are more flexible. They can differentiate slight variations of color. Estrogen helps them present certain diseases, like X chromosome linked diseases, heart disease, stuff. There's some advantages women have over men, but they're very small and they're mostly related to childbirth. Like, the reason why women are more flexible than men is because they have to squeeze babies out of their vaginas. But once you get away from childbirth, they're weaker, they're less intelligent, they're less emotionally stable. Men can just do far more things better than women than the reverse. And if you say that, you hate women, which makes no sense. But again, if you understand that women are children, it's like telling a retarded child, like, you tell this kid he's got a fucking feeding tube, he's in a wheelchair, he's eating his boogers, and you're telling him you could do anything you want, Corky. If you just believe in yourself and clap your hands, you could do anything you want. And you're like, no, Corky's going to be shitting his pants.
I thought I was 40. The only one that bring up Corky.
he's never gonna live a full life. No one's gonna fucking touch his penis unless he pays them a lot of money. His life is fucked. Unless you could put his brain in a robot body like General Grievous from Star Wars, his life is fucked.
Now, I will give women that advantage over us. Because, like, we have a kid and it come out a certain way. We want to just let that motherfucker go on down the river. Women will take that kid, though, and they'll love it. And women be like, I love my one-armed kid. You be like, Can we try again? Can we just move this motherfucker on?
Well, but so a lot of that has to do with the welfare. Like women, if you have a disabled child, you get all these welfare benefits showered upon you. So they look at their, if they have a retarded kid, that's like a meal ticket. They get additional welfare benefits. If you took away welfare, they would probably fucking smother that kid with a pillow.
I'd agree with you.
What do you think they did in antiquity when what did the Spartans do? They used to throw the baby over the flipping cliff.
Well, I've heard that was just that was a movie. I don't think they actually threw their.
No, they did. Well, he wasn't over a cliff, but they got rid of him. Yeah, they used to get rid of them.
If a baby got a birth defect, you got to get rid of them. That's what a man looks at. Because, look, this is my lineage. I can't put out this slow-ass kid as my son. I'm sorry. This is Thomas Jr. Ain't gay. No!
Yeah, right.
Well, but I think when you were talking before, you were talking about why haven't men stood up, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far back as first wave feminism has been supported by state and government welfare. All of it.
Yep.
We look at the lady from Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. She didn't just come up with that money. People didn't invest in her business. She got a bunch of free money and welfare from it. All these charities donated, all these people, they made her. She didn't earn it. She didn't achieve it. You look at Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem is supposed to be like the feminist Emperor Palpatine, and she looks like it now. But the point is that she didn't do nothing. She was actually, it turns out, and I talk about this in my book, it turns out she worked at the Playboy Club. And it killed her career. But she had people white knight for her and give her jobs that she didn't deserve. And then when she started up her magazine, money and took no interest in the business. And these examples are repeated time and time again because feminism can't exist without the welfare state. Once you put consequences to actions, this shit stops.
I heard that before. Maybe you can elaborate on that. I heard someone say, a black Mgtow guy called in and he said, the reason why black men are having more of a problem than white men right now is because we don't have the power to punish. And
it's not that black men have more of a problem than white men. It's that more white men are cucked. Black men don't put up with it, and so black men don't put up with it. Black men have seen this because you were saying before with your previous guest that the black family. There were more intact black families in the United States than there were white families. And this is true. I think it was there was a point where it was 70%. But when feminism attacked the black communities and destroyed the institution of marriage and instituted a sex liberation movement, you saw generation upon generation of single mothers. So you have these black men who were raised by single mothers and realize that she's participating in this feminist sex liberation movement and she's participating in all this slutty behavior. And they're like, oh my God, my mom is a slut. And they don't want to be with that. And so they get red pilled early and they're like, oh, I can't be the nice guy. I can't be this. And even if you look at Tupac said the same thing. Tupac was like, hey, I was trying to be a nice guy. I was trying to do the traditional thing. And the women said I was too nice.
There was that bit on Dr. Dre's album. It was like, your mama was a hoe. She was weekend pussy.
Right. But the point is that black men got red pilled early.
Yeah, but they still, but the biggest
But they fight against it.
I was about to say, the biggest cucks, you won't see white men fighting because you say something mean about a woman. They will just argue with you. There are black dudes who will kill you because you said something about their hoe-ass mama. Like your mama's a hoe. You have 3 kids by 3 different damn men. Your mama's a hoe. You and your brothers got different daddies. Say whatever you want, your mama's a hoe. But you can't say that. But that same black man will call his girlfriend a hoe for cheating on him.
Right. And some of that again, it's raised by that single mom. And I think that you get a lot of that. That's that cuck mentality. That's that cuck mentality where they think that, oh well, I'm going to hold everybody to a different standard than the other. See, white guys. What happens with white guys is that when white guys realize that their mom is a hoe, most of them get cucked out and they just go kill themselves.
Right. But white dudes are able to do like Eminem. The one thing I can say, hanging around white people in high school, is them white dudes would say if their mama was a bitch, they call their mama a bitch.
Right.
You would never see a black dude be able to do this. We've all seen white dudes go off on their mom for doing some dumb shit. As a black dude, no matter how dumb your mom acted or is, you can't say anything about it. That's why you see Tupac saying, even though you were a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen, mama. White dudes will disown their mama for smoking crack.
Right. Well, and you know, but you see that black guys will do it too, but they do it in a different way. They'll just relocate in order to get away from that unhealthy situation. If they can, they'll just relocate. But I mean, and I got to concede the point there. You are correct when it comes to those particular issues. But what I'm saying is that black men pay the price for standing up against feminism and gynocentrism because they fight against it more. And so, you know, they get jailed a lot more because of it. They, you know, there are higher rates of being incarcerated for child support. You know, they get demonized for it. In Washington State, where I live, you know, and this isn't a black or white thing, but it's a gynocentrism thing. There are guys on the radio who will call people who owe child support and will shame them on the public radio.
Yep.
And you see this all the time. And so, but the idea though is that the second that you take away the welfare state is the second that feminism fails. And you know, but the problem that you have is that you have all this money coming from these big charity associations, coming from the federal government in the form of grants and government welfare. And when I say corporate welfare, I'm talking about you know, feminists who are able to get jobs that they don't deserve.
Amen.
You know, like Google's decided they're going to have like a diversity officer to police diversity, that kind of bullshit. Or, you know, college campuses doing the same thing. You know, listen, if everybody's a loser, nobody's a winner. You know, participation trophies don't work. And this idea that we allow this, the reason why men are not standing up is because they're the ones funding feminism. They're the ones who are funding this shit. You know, men are the net taxpayers in the United States. But the second that you take away the funding, the second that you take away the welfare state, all this shit goes away. And like I said, I'm not talking about just the poor mom collecting her food stamps and her welfare in the ghetto. I'm talking about all the corporate welfare that we see. You get these businesses that get these diversity grants or stuff like that. And, you know, and you were saying how women are more violent than men. Did you know a study came out recently that showed that when it comes to one-sided domestic violence, that women commit the violence 70% of the time? That's a Harvard study.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Like,
I gave the stat of who abuses their children the most. Did you know that the most violent relationships in the United States are females dating females?
Yeah, lesbians. You know, and what's interesting is that statistically, the safest place for a woman and her child is in the home, in the middle of an intact relationship with the biological father.
Yep. That
is the safest place. And in the first few chapters of my book, I actually go back and forth and I show the difference in crime rate and the difference in family outcomes between communities that embrace those family values and embrace women being loyal to their men, compared to the communities that have embraced sex liberation, that have embraced, I don't need no man, or embraced feminism and embraced gynocentrism. They're all shithole hellholes. Look at Sweden. You were talking about how women got to have the male cop to back them up. There's a video out there of 3 Swedish cops, females, trying to arrest this average migrant, and he whoops the shit out of all three of them.
He was handing them their hat. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I love watching that video. Them 3 women were getting their ass whooped. Now this was supposed to be the law. The law was getting fucked up by an average dude. He wasn't swole. He wasn't just this big old dude. He's just a regular old vagrant. He probably was hungry and shit.
Yeah, but you see, this is what happens though when you let feminism run a government. You see, Sweden's government is a feminist, and it is a shit show. It is an absolute shit show. You look at Venezuela. Go ahead.
Look at Australia. They opened a bunch of jobs up only to women to try to diversify their army. The women only have to do 4 push-ups. Lord. This is the military. These are the people that are supposed to defend your life and your freedom if you're invaded, if there's a war. And it's a bunch of women who only have to do 4 push-ups. So imagine like you're wounded and you need your battle buddy to pull you into a foxhole so you don't bleed out. And this bitch can only do 4 push-ups. You're fucking dead. And then, you know.
Look at
It's fuck-
9/11.
It's stupid.
Look at 9/11. When we talk about all those cops, this is a part of my movie when it comes out. I actually have this where I was in front of this plaque, and they were showing, and I hate to give out too much of the movie, but I was in front of this plaque where they were showing these firefighters who had saved so many people. And I looked at the photo, and I said, there's not one woman here. Yet men, these same men who have died to save women, get the shit beat out of them when it comes to court. 75% of the people who are homeless are men. What does that tell you? Even when a woman fails at fucking life, somebody will let this bitch live with her. Many of us know women who don't have jobs, and yet they can eat, buy clothes, get their hair and nails done, and she don't have no job. How many men do you know like that? Well, he don't have no source of income, but he's still living like he balling.
Well, those women earn their living on their backs. That's how they can afford all that stuff.
Yeah, but I agree, but
yeah,
I'm
they're
saying
at
like
Arby's drive-through.
right. But
Yeah.
if you look at the men,
They're
these
keeping that
men
dick
are
wet.
these men are giving their lives, and yet when they go to court, they can't even get a fair shake.
But you see,
Well, no-
that goes back to 1980. That goes
You
back
see
to
that
19-
with
Go ahead.
veterans, like the guys in the military. These are
Yep.
people who, even after 9/11, we had that like week where everyone was really patriotic for like a week. Everyone was buying soldiers drinks and shit. When those soldiers come home from fighting a fucking war, and their wife serves them divorce papers,
Yep.
they'll take them right to court, and the fucking JAG officer will help him get fucking raped by the system. And it really ultimately comes down to the courts are a arm of the government. Women are the majority of voters, and the politicians need female votes. So they're going to keep giving them, and because women have hypergamy, they always want more. So it doesn't matter. Like we've gone so far past equality, it's not even funny. But they still want more. They're making bullshit up to complain about so they can get more. And because women are the majority of voters, the politicians have to keep giving them stuff if they want to keep their job. So once you give, like I've talked about this, once you give women the right to vote, you have officially passed the point of no return, because you can't undo it. You can't like have a second vote and have the women vote away their voting rights. So you're fucked. So the women are just going to keep demanding more and more until the shit falls off the rails and a lot of people die. And the women, this is the sad part, when the shit falls off the rails, the women will be fine. All they have to do to be taken care of is just find a guy and suck his dick, and the guy will protect him. The guy will provide for him. The men are fucked. The men are the ones who they always get screwed over. It's just, and the only reason why they don't band together and fix the problem is because of that dominance instinct. It's not happening to them. They don't empathize with their fellow man. They see other men as threats and competition, and they're actually happy when bad things happen to men, because they think that's one less man I have to compete with. They don't think that could happen to me. And you see this all the time, and it's infuriating when you're trying to warn someone, but you can't save people who don't want to be saved. If you're trying to warn them and they're just telling you, you're like, oh, you're just a faggot, and you just can't find the right woman, like, all right, dude, you know what? Have fun in divorce court. And then when they get divorced, some of them actually write me back, like people, because I've been doing YouTube since like 2014. People are like, yeah, you don't remember me. I left a comment like, a couple months ago or a couple years ago. And yeah, you were right. And I got fucked over and just wanted to write you and tell you I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, well, what are you going to do? Yeah,
I have that happen a lot too, and it bothers me. I'm like, these dudes were ready to beat me up, but then something happens to them, and now they're hitting me back saying, well, you had a point. This kind of went wrong with me. And I'm like, but why wait until something bad happens? And then even with my movie, do you know how hard it was for me to get these celebrity men who were saying, hey, this is a great thing that you're doing? I was like, cool, get on here and show your face and talk about what happened to you. I have one, and he's a friend of mine. I don't want to put his name out, but many of y'all know. He's in the business. He's a rapper. He's been going back and forth, couldn't even go out of the country because child support was fucking him up. I was asking him to come in my movie and talk about it. He wouldn't do it because he was worried that the women would try to fuck him over farther if he got in the movie and explained what was going wrong, which would keep us from hearing from people who are dealing with it. But he didn't mind going out talking about the racist white man and how they killing black men and the police is killing black men. And I'm like, hold on, dude. Police have never killed you. You can't name 3 people who the police have killed. But all your homeboys is dealing with this damn court system and these women trying to ruin you. But you afraid to put your face out there and talk about it? Which one of you guys want to handle that?
I'll handle that. I know I'm doing most of the talking, but it's not. you see this with white people too, these white nationalists. Whether you're talking the fucking the white nationalists or you got the We Was Kings, Black Power people, the same kind of thing. It's the same dynamic. The problem is there's no male authority over women and families. The welfare state and welfare dependence is really what's destroyed the black community. It's not the racist cops shooting didn't-do-nothings. Mm-hmm. It's the welfare state and dependence that's destroying the communities, destroyed the family, and the lack of male authority over wives and children and families. That's the problem. But because these men want to get laid, because these men want to, men are wired to care for and protect women. So it's just so hard for them to identify women as the problem. Like, okay, you're the problem. We need to fix your shit out. It's so much easier to look at someone you already have no affiliation with. Like, it doesn't matter what your race is. So it's much easier for you to blame a man of another race, another tribe, another anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. We could all be one race. You know, like what happened in Rwanda. Everybody was the same fucking skin color, and they were murdering each other because one of them like had a different shaped nose. So it doesn't matter. But it's easier to find some them group and blame them for all your problems. Now I have a hypothesis that it's always whoever has more money than you. So white people, on average, have more money than black people. So because that's true, therefore white people are the cause of all the black people's problems. Now, white people have more money than black people. So they don't blame black people. They blame Jews because, on average, the Jewish people have more money per capita than white people. Not as a group because they're very small, but per capita, Jews are doing pretty good. So white people blame the Jews for all their problems because they have more money. So if you have more money, everybody who has less money than you is going to blame you for all their problems. It's retarded. And it's just a way for them to push the responsibility for their own decisions and for their women, because they don't want to blame their women. They don't want to hold their women accountable because they love them and they want to fuck them. So they need to find someone else to blame. And they'll just look for whatever group has more money than them, and clearly they're the problem. And they'll come up with the most stupid conspiracy theories, like whether it's, oh yeah, all these white cops are shooting people, has nothing to do with the crime rate. Oh, I don't know, they're just shooting people for no reason. They're just driving while black. And then you got the white people saying, oh, it's the fucking Jews and their banks and the Illuminati and like the turning the fish gay. So it's always some grand conspiracy that makes somebody else responsible. So for your shit and for your women's shit. And the truth is you need to straighten out your women. Men are stronger and smarter than women. If men just pull their fucking head out of their ass and held women accountable and didn't white knight for them, women can only do what men let them get away with.
I was about to say, if you think of it this way, and women get mad when I say this, I've said it on several shows. I said, do you know why rape isn't legal? It's because there are other men who who are willing to fight that you can't rape women. If men agreed that there's no such thing as rape, there would be no such thing as rape. If literally men said, if you can grab a woman and get her to do it and you can overpower her, it's legal, it would be legal and women couldn't do anything to stop it. So men know that it takes other men to even stand up to help women out in life. So that's the biggest thing to show you women that men are fair. Because men are fair enough to not allow overbearing oaths to take over the community. They're actually doing this. They're not saying, well, we as men, we would have access to the prettiest girls if we just allowed us to be able to run and grab whoever we want. Because that would be the simple way of men to not have to fight other men for beautiful women. Just allow us all to be able to go out and grab whichever one we wanted.
That's true, but because men have dominance and territorial instincts, they don't want... That's right. They want to grab everyone. They want to grab all the women by the pussy, but they don't want other men grabbing their women by the pussy.
That's it.
But you mentioned something. I've talked about this before. Men and women actually have different moral systems. There were two sociologists or behavioral psychologists. I don't remember. One of them was Kohlberg. He came up with this theory of moral development. There were 6 stages, and it was based on men. And then there was a feminist who came in behind him as his contemporary, Carol Gilligan, and she came up with this care-based morality. Because women, when it comes to the moral development of human beings, there are 6 stages. Women stop at stage 3. They never advance past stage 3. Men, and again, I think this has everything to do with the sexual reproductive dynamic. Because men are protectors and providers, they're naturally caring and selfless. They have what even Carol Gilligan, who was a feminist, called justice-based morality. They see the bigger picture, they see the work, the moving parts, and they want things to be fair and just. Women don't see that. They just, for whatever reason, they don't develop past stage 3. So Carol Gilligan, in order to explain this clearly observable reality, she argued that it wasn't that women were morally inferior, it was that they had a different kind of morality. It was called care-based morality. So it wasn't so much about justice, it was about caring and relationships. And if you want to see exactly what a care-based system looks like, look at the Title IX tribunals, where men are basically thrown out of college who are innocent with no evidence because a woman cried rape. Look at the family court, where men are just completely destroyed to provide for women because vagina. That is what care-based morality is. When you have women running society, it destroys everything. It is suicide. You have to restrain women. Like, even in a best case scenario, if you give them rights, but whatever, like you keep them from destroying society, fine. Then all that happens is your society doesn't reproduce and it dies. So congratulations. Like, you don't become a primitive shithole, you just die out and get conquered. If you want to preserve your society, you have to check your bitch. That's what you got to do. It sucks. I understand men, like, you want to believe women are capable of being equal to men. They are not. Individual women, you have the individual exceptions. You have, like, in the military, about 4% of women can meet the male standard. Because you know how they always have lower standards. 4%, 96 can't. 4% can. Just because 4% can doesn't mean you give the other 96 a pass. Say, well, because 4% can meet the male standard, I guess men and women are equal. No, they're not.
Like, here's a funny part. You guys,
whatever.
People saw me with this girl. There's a friend of mine. She's got huge arms. Her arms are about twice as I am. She's a bodybuilder. But here was the difference. I was able to lift her over my head like this. She wasn't able to lift me over her head like that. But she's so much bigger than me.
There was a video of the world's strongest woman arm wrestling 3 random guys at a gym, and she only beat one of them. So it's just 3 random guys at a gym, not even professional bodybuilders, just 3 random guys. I mean, they weren't like couch potatoes. They did work out, but they weren't even that big, and they beat the world's strongest woman. And then you see this thing like this national soccer team of women, like this national, like think of like the All-American team, but it's like for women. They lost to a group of 15-year-old boys. Like, they went to a high school and fought 15-year-old boys in soccer, and the boys kicked their ass. And I remember, this is anecdotal, when I was in high school, our PE class would face the girls' varsity volleyball team and kick their ass. Just a bunch of kids in a PE class.
I dated a girl who was 6'5", and she played for the WNBA. I was just a dude who went around playing basketball. She dared me one day. She said, I could beat you. Just mind you, she's 6'5", I'm 5'11". Not only did I beat her, but I dunked in her face. And she kept on saying, well, we need to go again. Now, she's bigger than me, and she kept on trying that let me back you down crap. She would get down there, and every time she'd get ready to shoot, I would go for no pump fake, and when she got ready to shoot it, I'd block it. It was ridiculous. And I kept saying, and the fact is, y'all want people to believe, look, the WNBA has never made a profit since its inception, and yet nobody wants to point out, and I'm glad you brought up Title IX too, and I want us to, I don't know if you guys are willing to do this. I want to break right now, and then I want to come back and maybe have like a part 2 with you guys, maybe later on in the week or another week, or if you guys want to do, because I think we have so many places where we can cover this with, because people like you guys who are coming from the Mgtow mindset, I want you guys to be able to talk to more men, because I don't want to be the only guy talking about it. And I did not know a lot of what I talked about was Mgtow, but I do know that I speak about women of all races and how they're able to push agendas on men and get men to fight those battles for them. To me, that's one of the greatest brainwashes that's ever been done, that you have men fighting men over women's superiority.
Yeah, we call them cucks. So unfortunately, there's no cure for stupid.
Right. You just got to breed it out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I did this video called The Tragedy of the Cuck. And the thing is it's the only card they have. They're not attractive. They're not rich. So being a nice guy, being a white knight, being a cuck, that's the only play they have. So this is why you see these male feminists. They're fucking doughy bitches. Like, you don't go, like, just look, Google male feminist and hit the image search on Google. There's no attractive men there. There's no, unless they're like celebrities who are like doing a bit, like they're just trying to garner, you know, some bullshit. Like, this is what a feminist looks like.
Yes.
But generally, male feminists are pathetic losers. And what's funny is they accuse Mgtow of being losers. When Mgtow, we're like businessmen and shit.
Yep.
Like, that's why we don't show our face, because we have something to lose. Male feminists, they'll show their face. They don't give a fuck because they're living in they're fucking poor. They're poor. They live with their girlfriend who takes care of them, and they lick her butthole clean after she goes poop. So, like, they have no shame. They have nothing to lose.
You notice they've brought in the homosexual aspect. I want to talk about this the next time we talk too. But have you noticed they brought in them as well? Like, they will make fun of us and call us gay and stuff. And then the people who are with them in their little circles shouting men down are gay men, like actual gay men joining them.
Yeah.
Well, and there's homosexuals that are starting to turn on them, and there's actually some inner rifts there too.
Yeah, that's why I like my man Milo. When Milo called it out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just saying when Milo called it out, it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, and we have there are gay men in Mgtow. The thing is because if you're gay, you don't have to walk away from women because you're already gay. But being gay doesn't protect you from all the other aspects of gynocentrism. You still have to worry about false accusations and feminism and bullshit. So just even if you're gay, that only protects you from, let's say, like up to maybe 50% of what Mgtow talk about. But the general gynocentrism in society still negatively affects you, even if you're gay. So it sucks.
Hey guys, I really want to do like a part 2. Hell, if it goes well, we'll just keep doing it like once a damn week, because this is impressive that you guys have so much more knowledge of just the common sense portion of it. And I would like to thank TFM. I'd like to thank my man DDJ, and I would like to talk to you more when you come on, when we do it the next time, about the legal aspects of what you've had to do. And my man with that voice, in which I wish I had his voice, the feeding the cat. I want an accent. I got a southern accent, and there's nothing cute about it. Nobody likes it. But you guys have done me a great favor by talking to me, and I'm going to let each one of you guys have a last word to my audience, starting with you, TFM.
I'm Pickle Rick.
What does that mean?
You have to look it up. You have to search for it.
Pickle Rick.
That's all I got.
All right. You go ahead, DDJ.
You know, gynocentrism exists, and as much as you draw attention to it socially, until we change the laws, this feminist hierarchy that we live in won't change. You could shame feminists all you want, but as long as they are still in the state and the federal government, as long as feminists run the family court, all of it, as long as they're able to get government welfare, none of this changes. You can shame them all you want. It's not going to make a lick of difference. It's got to be a two-pronged approach. So I hope we can talk about that a little bit next time as well.
Definitely. And the young man with the cat, talk to me.
Hey. Right, so the only thing I have to say, you know, for the men in the chat, it's about equal benefit if you do plan to deal with a woman. You know, you can either love women or you can understand them. You cannot do both.
And that's kind of what I want to talk about the next time we talk. I want to get into these things, the legalities, but I also want to talk about how, as a Mgtow person, do you even deal with women, which is what you spoke of. How do you even deal with women? Because a lot of us are asking, are you saying completely don't deal with women? Or are you saying there's a protocol for dealing with women? So I'd like for you guys to be able to describe that more when we come back. All right?
All right. Sounds good.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you for having us on.
Hey, no problem. This
Thank you, Tommy.
was awesome, and I can't wait to do more with you guys. Hey, and somebody in the chat room was asking about coming on into you guys' shows. You guys have my information. Anytime you want me to come over there and on you guys' show, I'm definitely up for it. So all you have to do is let me know.
Nice. No, I have a Saturday podcast So that'd be fun.
Hey, I'm always up for it. Hey, guys, thank you guys so much, and thank every one of you guys for watching. I'm going to bid them adieu and bid you guys adieu as well. Thanks, brothers.
Bye.
All right, guys. See you guys on the upfront. What I want to do is I'm going to stop for a while because I've been eating. So I'm going to eat, and then if you guys want me to come back, I can let people call in on what they heard and give their thoughts a little bit later. But I gotta go eat now. I have not eaten anything all day, so I'm about to pass out. So I'm going to feed my face, and then I'll come back and talk to you guys. Thank you guys so much, though, for coming and dealing with us here on the show.